Okay, so again, my name's Neil Forbes. I am from Somerset, Prince Edward Island, and Saddle Lake Cree Nation. I am an MSSU student trainee and work with Jenny on the Indigenous Allyship Committee. We are very happy to be having this conversation with everyone here. Jenny and I are just going to go back and forth, have a conversation, and then for the last 20-15 minutes, we gladly take some questions. As long as the questions are coming from a place of respect, this is a safe space. We want people to feel comfortable to ask questions. Again, just coming from a place of respect. So I'm thrilled to introduce Jenny. Jenny is from Nagukuk, which is Maliseet for Tobic, and she's a proud mother of 6. As a trauma survivor, she is passionate about bringing cultural support and teachings to all her relations. She's a community partner with the MSSU Indigenous Allyship and Engagement Team, which is myself and Dr. Jason Hickey, along with the leadership committee, and she's a member of the MSSU Patient Partner Council. So Jenny, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. So to start with, Jenny, let's just talk about how did you get connected with your language and traditions and culture? Oh, sorry, Jenny, you're on mute.
I'm mute.
There we go.
Sorry, everyone. I guess he muted everybody, including me. Thanks for the introduction. I'm excited to be here. I'm from Nagukuk, as he was saying earlier, and I grew up, my grandmother was, she was a pipe carrier, sweat keeper. She was the Turtle Clan mother for Nagukuk. She was kind of like an activist. She was multiple things. She knew the language fluently. And growing up, all us cousins and I, she was always instilling that respect, the knowledge, the love, the teachings into us so we didn't lose it. That was one of her main priorities, was making sure that we had all of this to carry on with us into adulthood, so that she always told us so we wouldn't get lost. Then, as a child, I didn't understand. Now, as an adult, wow, I get it. So that's how, my whole family's been really connected with the culture. I've always attended ceremonies and everything like that. I've always immersed myself as much as I can into it, because it brings me to who I am today, basically.
So Jenny, did you ever live in community, or were you always off reserve?
I lived off reserve for most of my life. But I would go, I lived in Fredericton since I was born. But during summer times and everything, special occasions, I always went to my grandmother's, and we spent the time up there. And that's where I got got immersed into our language, culture, and tradition and everything. And then it wasn't until when I graduated and I moved up to Tobic to go Nagukuk to be with my sister and to help her. And then I lived there for about maybe couple years. And then I moved back off reserve and came back to Fredericton. And then now I'm in Quispamsis.
Thank you. And for those here that may not know, it's not a clean divide, but there's kind of on reserve and off reserve. For myself, I've never lived on reserve, and then living in PEI across the country from my community, I had no access to my community language culture, which has had a huge impact on me. And then so it's excellent, Jenny, that you, even though you weren't in community, that your family was keeping that connection alive, because obviously that's so important.
I was really lucky though. Sorry, I'm just going to add, Under One Sky, the friendship, it's Friendship Center now, but the one in Fredericton, they were a big help when I did move off reserve, because it felt like I still had a family. I still had somebody to go to. I felt like I was able to talk to people who don't look at you funny, like if you're trying to explain your medicines or your tradition, and like you get this look like, kind of like, what's wrong with you type of thing. But with Under One Sky, it was, they just, they were teaching all the kids all our teachings that I had learned and everything like that. And it made it feel so comfortable and so at home that, I didn't really truly feel alone. So it was really great. I just had to add that in there. If you're off reserve or anything like that, like you always go to try to find those connections so you can still feel connected.
Yeah, and then the other thing to note as well is that On Reserve usually has their own community medical centers. Some of the larger ones, it just depends. And then for like for myself and Jenny, at times we don't have that. And there's a friendship center under One Sky in Fredericton, the Mi'kmaq Friendship Center in Halifax, and in PEI, there's the Mi'kmaq Family Resource Center, which is not a friendship center, but is for families with kids 0 to 5, which is another wonderful resource. Okay, so can you give us a couple examples of traditional medicines and how they have helped you in your journey?
I sure can. I'm even going to tell you guys about this one right now. You may see the smoke going right now. I don't want you guys thinking like I'm just playing with fire or something. I'm not. Neil and I actually, we both smudged before this whole thing started. I smudged before that too, probably like twice. And then I have it right now here with me, keeping it going. So as Neil said earlier when he introduced me, I'm a trauma survivor. I'm a severe trauma survivor. I'm lucky to be here. The amount of things that I went through, when I've talked about it, people said, I don't think I could have survived that. Wow, like I'm real proud of you for making it. And it's like, whew. At times it gets hard for me. For example, being able to come in front of everybody right now, or to be able to talk with Neil right now. Just earlier, I was panicking. I was tweaking. I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. I can't do this. And it's my mind will get the better of me. But when that starts happening right away, I automatically go here. When I start feeling overwhelmed, if I start feeling sad, if I start feeling angry, frustrated, even if I'm happy, like anything like that, this is my medicine. This is my go-to where I come, because it calms me down. It brings this sense of calm, of peace. When I pray, like it feels like, if I'm praying to my mom or something, it's like they're right there with me, and they give me that strength. It gives me the strength to be able to, like, I almost copped out. I wasn't going to be here. I was going to pull the plug. No, I'm done. I'll let the backup do it. I'm good. But I'm proud of myself right now because I'm on here, and I thank the medicines for it. I thank for the people that come into my life that are able to help me get through this and to give me that push, that oomph. But in the end, like if it wasn't for the medicines, our medicines, I don't think I would be alive today. You guys wouldn't even be having this conversation with me, because I'd probably be 6 feet under. This is what saved me.
So Jenny, what's traditionally in smudge?
Sage.
Sage.
I'm just kidding. No, you can do different ones. So some people
Yeah.
will do like there's sage, and then you can burn sweetgrass. Some people will do mixtures where you could do like the 4 medicines: the sage, sweetgrass, tobacco, and cedar. And then some people will put all that together, because those are our 4 sacred medicines that are near and dear to us. Those are the ones that we commonly use quite a bit. And we'll mix all those together. There's this, I have a friend who will use kapal, and she puts that into it. We'll use fungus to smudge as well, or you can just get it right out from Mother Earth. And I'm trying to think. That's probably the main things that we use to smudge or whatnot.
So in your and thank you so much for being so open about your past, because I know it's helpful to others to kind of understand your story. So for you, and I don't want to lead you too much, but like, what has been your experience with like having your traditional medicines in hospitals, in Western clinics? Has it been positive? Has it been negative?
So there was a bit of both. Um, I can remember a time, and it was kind of neat because I seen it. Like, there was a time where, uh, because of things that had happened to me, I had to go to the hospital. And inside the hospital, I had a piece of stick with me that I had to keep. Like, I had a piece of stick, I had a rock. And the first person that had come in, she actually was Indigenous, which was awesome. When she came in, she was like, uh, well, she questioned because I was a little dirty. I had went out in the woods. So prior, I was crying almost like 3 hours straight. Nobody could get me to calm down or anything. And I kept begging for nature, and I wanted to smudge. I couldn't get neither. I ended up kind of bolting and went into nature, calmed myself down, grabbed the rock, grabbed the stick, went back up. And then that's when the nurse started talking to me, but she was Aboriginal, and she was like, well, you look like you went on an adventure. Like, she was real friendly, kind, and everything. She's like, well, how come you're holding the rock and the stick? Like, she was real nice about it, friendly. And I was like, well, I feel more connected. I said, I feel more grounded to Mother Nature. I was like, she calms me. She brings my spirit to this place where I feel like I can actually figure things out and my mind doesn't race as much. And when I have it next to me, I feel like I have that strength to be able to get to the next steps. And she goes, I totally understand that. Yeah, I get that. And she was explaining where she was from and like her history and everything like that. It made me feel so comfortable, so amazing. She left. And then when the different one came back, like it was a different person who was going to, whatever, talk to me. And the look, I can't get that out of my mind. The look when uh, she first came in was kind of like, ew, why do you look like that? Because I legit had like sticks sticking out of my hair, like I had mud on my face and everything. Here I am with this stick and rock, and she's kind of like, and then when she asked me, what are you doing with that stick? What's with the rock? There was no empathy, no like, what do you do? Like, as if I was just straight up crazy. What is up with that? Like, and it was like, wow. And the feeling, like, I was just comfortable. I was good. Like, I had, like, you know what I mean? She got me in a good spot and everything. And then this other person came in who just had completely no knowledge or basically respect towards, even when I tried to explain to her, she kept this look on her face, like, and it was like,
Yeah.
well, why are you looking at me like that? Like, I'm not crazy. Like, this is part of our ways. Just because it's not your way doesn't make us nuts or make us different. It's just we have different ways of how we handle things. And but yeah. So there's been incidents like that where it's just been, there's not a lot of understanding for it towards us. And then we're made to feel like we're crazy when we reach for it because we know it helps us. But we got to go for the modern medicine because that's the better help, right? That's what they're trying to push on us. So God forbid we try to go back to our own ways.
Yeah. And in those two interactions, not too much was said. Like
No.
nothing racist was said, and the Indigenous nurse
Oh,
didn't talk them at all face, all, but it was crystal clear to you.
mhm.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And we talk about respect, and respect is hard because that kind of look, don't know the person, wasn't there, but from experience, that kind of look means I'm better than you. I know
Yeah.
better. At best, it means right now, I know better than you, and you
Yep.
don't need a rock and a stick. When the other nurse got it and was just able to talk to you about it to make a connection so you felt that much more comfortable. Yeah, and that's just so important. And when push comes to shove, that doesn't take time, doesn't cost anything. It's just respect, it's just empathy. Um, so oh, and we won't get into this because but like you mentioned it, like there's traditional remedies and there's traditional medicines within our cultures, and we're not even talking about those replacing or usurping traditional Western medicines. It's just like your experience of being a person in a hospital. Uh, it was negative, so which is just too bad. So why do you think it's so important for our people to be able to bring our traditions and ceremonies into the hospitals and healthcare centers?
Well, it really plays off from what I just said earlier too. And if where I had said like, and if you noticed with person A, how comfortable she made me feel, and with person B, how uncomfortable I was. So if we're going into the healthcare system, or if we're going to the hospital or anything like that, you know, and a lot of times they're complaining in there of how people are so rude and impatient, like, there's things going on, and, we get that. And if we're allowed to just have that, I don't think they realize how much peace and calm that brings to us, where it would actually help them in the healthcare system. There's a lot of ceremonies we like to do on our own. Like if it's a healing ceremony, like we don't need them or anything. We just need to be able to have our medicines and whatnot to be able to bring that life and to remind people, because when you're stuck in a hospital, like my sister, she had both her legs amputated. She was diabetic. I called her the cat with more than 9 lives, because she died so many times but came back. And it was like, wow. And there would be times where my grandmother would come in there, because my sister would get so depressed, because when you're stuck in a room with walls around you and you're not able to get out or anything like that, it really does a number on your mind, your body, your spirit, your soul, like everything like that. My sister fell into like a deep depression, and when my grandmother went in, she brought her medicines. She bought her medicine bundle and everything, and she talked to the nurses and stuff. She had a little fight back of it, but they ended up allowing her to do it. When I had seen my sister before that ceremony had happened, the look on her, like she just looked terrible. She looked terrible. She looked like she had no life in her eyes or anything. But when she was reconnected with her culture and everything, like when my grandmother came and she was helping her so she could have a clearer mind, and so her heart wasn't so sad or anything like that. And to ask the spirits to be able to help her to get through this so she can, continue to be on with her life and everything like that. And I swear, like it was a night and day difference. My grandmother was able to light a little bit of sage. Surprisingly, that was amazing. I was shocked, absolutely shocked. But my grandmother had a way with words. Remember, she was the Turtle Clan mother for Tobic and all this. So she knew how to work her way around. It was pretty phenomenal. But my sister had life in her eyes again. She was laughing. We were all able to, like, she was actually talking, because even before that, she didn't want to say nothing. She had nothing to say. Like, it was one word answers and everything. And then, after that, it was like, she was hungry. She was actually eating and everything. And when it was being done, she had a good cry. And then, like, once the ceremony was done, like, it was so beautiful, so amazing. And I've witnessed this so many times. It's happened to me as well, like stories with like people coming in like that and helping me. One of the things that when we were there, and when my grandmother when they let her light the sage, and it was just a tiny bit. And I swear, after, when the nurse came in, what is that stink? What is that smell? She was one of the ones where we just told her we were going to go do a ceremony with, and that we asked. She was standing in that little group. And it was like, we just had a beautiful moment. Beautiful moment. I just witnessed my sister, like, you know what I mean? She was depressed, down, and everything. And then she brought back to life. And then you have somebody like that comes and just kind of like, gee, thanks for ruining that. Not ruining it, but putting like
pulls the rug right out from under you.
Yeah, like, and then, well, needless to say, my grandmother put her straight. But yeah.
Don't mess
So
with
I think
grandma.
that's why it's important to have that in there, because it brings us back mentally, spiritually, physically. Like it helps us. It's our ways and we need it. It's like taking a part of you that, like, it's like your arm. You don't need that arm, or your fingers, or you're like, you don't need that. Let's just take that and now you work. Let's see how you do in life. It's like
That's
that with
a
our ways. Yeah.
just your point on balance is so important. And then for those who may not know, uh, throughout Canada, Indigenous communities, uh, it's the balance of physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional. And that our journey through life is to get to a place where we can have balance. Um, and then when you, if you ever get to that place, that's where truth is. But truth is a very personal thing. So because of colonization, because of residential schools, because of the 60s scoop, because of, unfair funding practices, by the federal government, our government has systematically and thoroughly tried to knock us off balance.
Yep.
And it's really hard. So for me, having not known my community, not known my father, not known my language, I am really good with the mental, aspects of life. I want to look at everything through theory. I want to look at everything through books. And I've got huge hangups when it comes to spiritual and emotional. And, as I grow older, as I had my daughter, it's hard for me to engage in that, and opening myself up to something larger through smudging has been huge for me. For you, Jenny, what, and maybe this is an impossible question, where, like, when you get to practice your, like, traditional medicines, like when you get to smudge, what do you feel like? Where does it take you?
The peace, the serenity, the panicness goes away. It brings me to a whole other level. It brings me to a whole other world. It's like I can literally take my, like, when I start smudging or any type of ceremonies, you put yourself in this safe place with the medicines, because you're safe with the medicines. They're there to help you. They're there to protect you. That they don't want to use any bad against you, or they'll use your words against you, or they'll get jealous or have greed or anything like that. The medicines don't do that. And it just brings you that safety and security every single time. Every single time. That's what it does for me. Every time.
And yeah, and that balance is so important to health. And, you know, that's why it's so important, that we share, your story, so that those here can kind of begin to understand uh, how it can fit in with very little effort. You know what I mean? It's just we have to think about things differently,
Mm.
realize that, we've gone down a path, but we can make some changes.
Mm.
Um, so, okay, I kind of jumped ahead here, but like, in just to kind of put a pin on it, like, why is it so important to have understanding towards our people's ways and make sure that, everyone in healthcare, everyone in academia has empathy? Because why is empathy so important?
Empathy is so important because it's going to cause a lot less arguments, less anger, hate. Um, because what happens is automatically it's like being like when they jump to assumption, or it's like they know how we feel. Sorry, by they I mean like people who are non-indigenous, um, who work in the healthcare system and everything. It's like they assume they have us all figured out. They assume they know how we feel and everything. And I get, you know that it gets busy in there, and hold on, give me a second here. Let me rethink that. Let's redo this over. Not redo this over. I'm trying to think of how to word it, but I'm blanking. My mind just went like bloop. It's one of those
No,
brain
ev-
things.
everything you said made sense. Like, so
Did it?
just to
Okay.
restart you,
Okay.
it makes it easier. And, it's not asking for special treatment.
Mm-mm.
It's it's having respect for the patient, but then also the hospital.
Yes. Yeah.
Eh, Yep, perfect. That's good.
Yeah.
No, no, no. So we only have about 13 minutes left. I got one more question for you, Jenny. But
Shoot.
as we go through this last question, if anyone has any questions, feel free to put those into the chat, and then we can kind of pick away at those as well in our last minutes. So yeah, so.
Is that how many people's on there? Holy.
Oh, don't look at that. Don't look at
I
that.
know. I'm sorry. Good. Go ahead. Keep going. Yep.
You've
Mhm.
not, you've not always used your language, culture, your traditions to support you.
No.
When you
No.
when what Okay, so and you've spoken to how important that is to how you to who you are today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what switched where you were able to accept that? Like, how were you able to open yourself up to your language, your culture, to begin that healing process?
Well, let me just go back on that, because I did grow up with it. I grew up with it constantly, but then there came to a point where I kind of lost it. I steered off.
Thank you.
Uh, I had I had became an alcoholic and everything, and actually, that's where I got reconnected, because I had met an elder who had did this in-house healing lodge type of thing. He did it with his own home where we could all go in there, and there was a bunch of us that were like different ages, but it was only like 6 of us. And he was the one who showed us how to heal ourselves, like how our people did, with the sweat lodge, with the ceremonies. He was bringing drummers in. He had people who were coming in speaking the language. We met people all over the world, different dancers, artists, and everything like that. He took us to meet all these elders and everything. He filled our head with so much knowledge and everything. Like, he gave that sense of home back, that feeling of home. I didn't feel so lost. It was amazing. And as soon as he did that, like, he even helped me, because he told me, he got me to help him with a healing ceremony that he did. And that was the first time I ever done it. And that was the most amazing experience I ever had in my life that I'll never forget. And it's just what I want to be able to pass on after that. You know what I mean? And understanding the importance of our culture and everything, and the healing that it brings, made me more passionate to be able to pass that on to others who, like me, where it's helped me tremendously. It's bringing me back to life every single day. I'm getting further and further, and it helps me rise all the time.
Thank you. No questions yet. Anyone feel free to type in a question.
You
Jenny,
don't have to.
if a
I'm just
non yeah if a non if a non-Aboriginal, non-native is in a situation where they're asked to smudge, uh,
kidding.
that maybe just so there's no issue with that. There's like it's not an exclusive thing.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe like for someone, if you were explaining to me, if I've never smudged, what would you explain like the process?
The way I always do it with people, like I just did it the other day with my daughter's boyfriend. She's non-Indigenous. They're both non-Indigenous, but I will guide them right through it. I light it, and I tell them automatically, there is no right or wrong way to smudge. There is no right or wrong way. It's your own, however you do it. Like, just because you see us go over our head or our eyes or ears or anything like that doesn't mean you have to follow it to the T. I do the teaching that my grandmother taught me. So whatever teaching you got and that you use, amazing. Do it. As long as you're doing it, that's that's the important part right there. Um, And then I'll talk them through it, like why we put it over our head, our ears, eyes, nose, mouth, heart, our feet, our back, our hair. Like, why do we? And then I'll explain that along the way, why we do that. And then once I'm done and they've seen me do it, then I'll say, okay, it's your turn. And then when it comes to them doing it, at first it'll be hesitant, like, okay, so I do this, and I'll be like, yeah, don't worry, there's no right or wrong way. Like, but yeah, you could do that. And then, making them comfortable, letting them get to know our medicines, and, like, to feel that calmness and everything with it, that there's nothing to be scared of about it. It's okay.
Yeah. And it's like, and we were talking about this the other day. This year my 4-year-old wanted to smudge. She had
Mm,
read it in a book, and it was that purity that she didn't have any questions. She just watched me do it, and then she did it, and she asks for it, and it helps her, and it's really nice.
mm,
For me, a way of knowing, a traditional way of knowing and being, or teaching, that's been so important has been Imsit Nogama, all my relations.
mhm.
Uh, what what does that mean to you?
And so, and then, how did you say yours? That's Mi'kmaq, right?
That's Mi'kmaq, yeah. So
Yeah,
Imsit Nogama.
yeah.
So
And
what would it be in Maliseet?
Dolnabamek, all my people.
All
And
my people.
Dolnabamek, yeah. So it's close. That's neat. Like, our
Yeah, it is neat.
languages are very close. It's awesome, but it means exactly what it means. All my people, all our people. Like, we're all in this together as one. Like, we've grown as a community. Like, we've known that, it takes a community to raise a child. When it comes to things that happen, we come together and everything. Like, it's all our people. Like, I don't know how to, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
does that make sense? I don't know.
Oh, it does. Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's the same thing. Like when you believe that you are connected with everyone, even though you don't understand it, even though you can't see it, you you act differently, you live differently,
Yeah.
and you make different choices.
Mm.
Um, Got a question here. Thank you, Sarah Bridges. So she asks, on smudging, she was wondering if there's different meanings behind using sage or tobacco or different mixtures. Like, is it personal preference, or would you ever add sweetgrass for a specific kind of smudging?
Uh, some people, sometimes it can be preference. Some people just like the smell with all the four, medicines together and whatnot. Each medicine does have different meanings. I guess you would say, like, different, but not, but um, like, we would use them in different types of areas. Like, for cedar, we would use cedar sometimes, like for a cedar bath, um, with the sweetgrass. It could be to help heal certain things that are happening inside of you. Um, with the tobacco, it's like releasing the negative energy or not, so nothing, like, you use it towards your prayers and stuff. Um, but yeah, it's total preference. If you wanted to mix and match, like I said, like, I have a good friend, Ramona. She will put sweetgrass, sage, cedar, tobacco, and kapal, and she puts that in there, and it smells amazing. Some people will just use sage. Some people will, typically with tobacco, we don't really smudge with tobacco just itself. Like,
It's a gift.
it's normally mixed with something, and yeah, it's normally as an offering, because that was a big thing for our people. Is it was like I don't know, that was like a high. How do you explain that, Neil? Like a high, like when you give tobacco, it's like a thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Like,
an offering. Like, so if
offering.
I was to if I was to now, if we were in person, I asked you to speak today. So if we were in person, I would offer you tobacco while I was asking you, so
Yeah,
that you knew that I'm coming to you with respect and
yeah,
appreciation for your time and your knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just been a part of our ways for a very long time. So
And then, yeah, and then as you also said, it's your family, it's your teachings, so it's what you've been taught. So how it's been passed down, where your family's from, have they moved, and then also geography, because like out west, sweetgrass is so much more available than in the Maritimes.
oh yeah.
So we got 3 more minutes. Oh wait, where are we here? So Sandra, thank you, Sandra, asked, I think sometimes people are uncomfortable to ask the wrong question or a question in the wrong way. They don't want to be disrespectful. What
Right.
advice do you give for people to be more comfortable
To be more comfortable. Okay.
having these
What
conversations?
one of the things that I've noticed the most is that it's like we can actually tell when somebody is genuinely asking a question and does not know. Um, I've had people come up to me and like, I have a lot of non-Indigenous friends, and when they would come up and like, hey, can I ask you a question? Like, just, I hope you don't take offense to it or anything, but I was just curious, like, what does this mean when you guys do that? Or why do you guys do this? And then it's like, oh, okay, like, yeah, sure, I have no problem filling you in. But when somebody comes up and is like ignorant about it, why do you even do that? What's up with that? Ew, why do you do that? And then, they're two different. So when you're asking people, just make sure you're genuine about it. If you already are going to be like, you're stuck in your way, or you think you already know the answer, don't even bother asking. Like in my eyes, really, because our people have gone through so much trauma already. And then when we try to share information with you and then you shoot us down with like this, well, why do you want to know if you're going to be in that type of mood or that type of, I don't know, it's not that type of mood. So that would be my best advice is, and don't be shy. Like, I don't know. Sometimes we can look real mean, but we're not. We're actually really nice. It's just making sure. And then the other advice is I would kind of advise not asking so much the elders about certain things because they've gone through a lot. That's why us younger generation are stepping up to be able to answer these questions, because the things that they went through was very traumatic. So it'd be like if you had to talk about something about your traumatic life that happened in your past and somebody's like, oh, hey, I heard you were in residential school. How did that go? How was that for you? Are you going to want to explain the trauma that you went through while you were there just so you could have that understanding? Yeah.
So thank you so much,
You're
Bill.
welcome.
Thank you. And we will see you in the next session. It starts at 10:30, so we all get a little break for a few minutes. And again, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye.